The X-Files has spun its story of worldwide government conspiracies, crypto-fascist alien invasions, and evil oil for about a quarter of a century at this point. But it's also found the time to create over 100 monstrosities for the show's one-shot Monster of the Week episodes, which many fans prefer to the show's central plotline. I got the chance to speak to the X-Files creator, Chris Carter, about the show's best ever monsters, from sympathetic mutants to inbred murderers, and asked him to give us his favourite facts about their creation. Here's what we learned. Born out of a cocktail for Carter's love for Creature from the Black Lagoon and his fear of what might emerge from the then recent Chernobyl disaster, it's fitting that the Flukeman steps a neat line between hokey and horrifying. Created as a full-body suit with no CGI added in post, this humanoid flatworm freak is perhaps even more amazing for who was inside the costume. A young Darren Morgan was drafted to play the bloodthirsty creature from beneath the waves. He'd go on to become much more famous as a writer, creating some of the X-Files' best-loved episodes, and one of the monsters on this list. Ghouli's not just the latest season of the X-Files' best out-and-out monster, it's also a reaction to where horror has gone in the 25 years since the show first aired. In the show's story, Ghouli was created in and birthed out of the mind of a modern-day teenager, and Carter says it represents what today's kids are scared of. As such, it's essentially a living creepypasta, complete with its own tie-in website of sightings, a reflection of Slender Man and its ilk. Monsters that Mulder moans lack the pathos of their classic ancestors. But while Ghouli might represent today's less relatable villains, in practice, he's actually a throwback to the X-Files of old. Like Flukeman before it, Ghouli is a full costume, although accented with a touch of CGI, created by special makeup effects artist Bill Terazakis. Tooms was the X-Files' first Monster of the Week and remains one of its most disgusting. His bizarre ability to stretch, the penchant for human liver, and those bile-covered papier-mâché nests all contribute to make for a classic unknowable horror. But Carter attributes those scares to a more relatable element. The man who played Tooms, Doug Hutchison. Not only did Hutchison capture the predatory stare of a monster perfectly, he apparently lived it. Carter says he took a method approach to the character and became a creepy figure lurking on the set while playing him. Writers Glenn Morgan and James Wong loved the performance so much that they wrote a second Tooms episode as soon as they were able. Donnie Plaster is one of the more unusual monsters in the X-Files history, mainly because he didn't begin as a monster at all. Carter says that the key to understanding a monster is that it's only as scary as it is believable, which makes this initially entirely human death fetishist as scary as they come. As Carter puts it, Donnie Plaster is the creepiest man you'd never want to know. The decision to confirm him as an actual demon in the follow-up episode was controversial, to say the least, but Carter credits his first appearance with helping inspire an entirely new series, Millennium. The X-Files spin-off took a more grounded approach, with Carter describing a general philosophy of sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones standing next to you in the supermarket checkout. Plaster very much fits that bill. This tale of a sympathetic monster, one of the X-Files' most memorable and important episodes, wouldn't exist without Cher and Roseanne Barr. Carter explains that both celebrities had written to him separately, hoping to appear in the show. He wrote an episode that could use them both, hoping to cast Barr as Shayna Berkowitz, who gets in touch with Mulder and Scully, while Cher would provide the soundtrack and a cameo for the ending. Cher's influence actually went deeper. The Great Mutato himself was inspired by a Cher film, Mask, whose story of a loving child with a facial deformity was blended with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Neither Cher nor Barr would make it into the finished episode because of scheduling conflicts, but Carter says they provided the springboard for the postmodern Prometheus's creation. Carter credits Humbug, written by Darren Morgan, with launching the X-Files in a new direction. On the one hand, Morgan's comedy writing works brilliantly with this tale of a community of ex-circus performers, particularly when he takes aim at Mulder's increasingly ridiculous quest for the unexplained. And on the other hand, there's Leonard, who's as horrible as the episode is funny. A parasitic twin looking to attach to a new host body by burrowing into his victims, this Fiji mermaid-like nightmare is one of the show's most grotesque creations, which might explain why Carter says he had to fish the Leonard puppet out of a dumpster before gifting him to Morgan. Leonard Betts is the troubling villain of a particularly strange episode of The X-Files. This radical new step in the evolution of man can regrow body parts, but subsists on tumours, and he sits at the centre of a tale of double identities, walking headless corpses, ripped-off thumbs, baths of iodine, and even the first sign of a major plot arc for the series, when Betts gives viewers a clue to Scully's growing cancer. Carter admits that he doesn't have much memory of the monster's creation, besides advising on how his head should look as it regrew, but that might be because it's overshadowed by what happened when the episode was aired. Through an accident of scheduling, the episode ended up being shown directly after 1997's Super Bowl and became the X-Files' most watched episode ever, with 29 million people watching the tale of a cancer-eating mutant right after the big game. Almost inarguably the X-Files' most gruesome and disturbing episode, Home opens with a baby being buried and somehow gets worse from there, introducing the Peacock family with a whirl of slasher film-indebted violence, a truly horrible story of inbreeding gone wrong, and topped off with an unhappy ending. It's a brutal, classic episode, and horribly, Carter says it's based somewhat in reality. The reveal that quadruple amputee Mrs. Peacock is kept under the bed is inspired, weirdly, by a section of Charlie Chaplin's autobiography, where he recalls staying with a family that kept their amputee son under a dresser. The Peacock brothers, meanwhile, were inspired by 1992 documentary Brothers Keeper, telling the story of 4 illiterate siblings embroiled in a fratricide case. Somehow, knowing this only makes home more unpleasant. If you like that, check out our rundown of 9 X-Files cameos by actors before they were famous.